If you're a gentleman over 60, you might find that conversations about men's health tend to tiptoe around certain topics. Masturbation, yes, that very private, personal subject, is one of them. But let me tell you, after more than 3 decades as a urologist, I've seen firsthand how important it is to have open, honest talks about the things that actually matter to your well-being. So, why am I, Dr. Nolan Easton, sitting down with you today to talk about why senior men shouldn't quit masturbation, and what risks you might be taking if you stop altogether? Well, let me start with a story that may sound a little familiar. A few months ago, a gentleman named Harold came to my office. He was 71, silver-haired, sharp-witted, and, like many of my patients, carried himself with the quiet dignity of someone who'd worked hard and seen plenty of life. Harold's wife had passed a few years prior, and while he'd been adjusting as best he could, he confided that he'd gradually stopped pleasuring himself, partly out of guilt, partly out of the feeling that maybe at his age, it just wasn't necessary anymore. He chuckled as he told me, "Doc, I figured maybe it was time to just hang up the gloves." But Harold didn't feel quite himself. His sleep was restless, his moods had changed, and, as he put it, there was just less spark in the old engine. That's when I realized it was time to have the sort of talk most doctors shy away from. Now, before you start wondering if this applies to you, let's just put it right out in the open. Masturbation is a normal part of life at any age. But for men over 60, it plays a much more significant role than most folks realize. Over the years, I've met many men who quietly worry about their health, their memory, or their vitality, and yet, one of the most straightforward, natural habits they could maintain is the one they're least likely to talk about. Why does it matter? Well, as you age, your body's needs shift, but the fundamentals of keeping the mind, mood, and body in good working order remain the same. Masturbation isn't just a physical act. It's connected to your mental health, your sleep, your prostate health, even your cardiovascular system. Men like Harold sometimes assume stopping is the right thing to do, but the truth is, quitting suddenly, especially if it's not for medical reasons, can quietly set off a ripple of changes in your body that aren't doing you any favors. I want you to think about this. How many times have you made a change in your routine, thinking it was for the best, only to find unexpected consequences down the road? Maybe it was cutting out an afternoon walk, or giving up a hobby you loved. At first, things might seem just fine, but after a while, you notice a nagging sense of restlessness, maybe a little sadness creeping in, or even aches and pains that weren't there before. In the same way, stopping masturbation, especially after a lifetime of regular intimacy, whether with a partner or yourself, can cause subtle shifts in mood, energy, and even physical health. Now, I'm not here to make anyone uncomfortable. My goal is to empower you with knowledge, so you can make decisions that keep you feeling healthy, happy, and confident for as long as possible. Over the years, I've learned that the men who take the time to understand their bodies are the ones who keep their independence and their spark well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. That's the kind of advice you won't find in most doctors' offices, but it's exactly what I believe every man deserves. So, let's talk about some of the specific reasons senior men like Harold, and perhaps yourself, shouldn't rush to give up masturbation. To begin with, one of the most overlooked benefits is how this private habit helps regulate hormones, particularly testosterone. As you get older, testosterone naturally declines, but regular sexual activity, including masturbation, helps keep your levels steady. This isn't just about sex drive or masculinity, it's about preserving your bone density, your muscle mass, and even protecting your heart health. I've seen men who stop altogether begin to notice those little changes, stiffer joints, more tiredness, a sense of slowing down, and wonder if it's just aging. But often, it's also about missing out on one of the few remaining natural boosts your body still has in its toolkit. Then, there's the question of sleep. Harold, like many men his age, struggled to get a good night's rest. What most don't realize is that orgasm releases chemicals in the brain, like prolactin and oxytocin, that naturally help you relax and drift off more easily. When men stop masturbating, they can lose out on this simple, drug-free way to improve sleep quality. That's not just my opinion. Studies have shown that regular sexual release supports healthy sleep patterns, which in turn affects everything from your memory to your immune system. And let's not forget about mental health. We live in a world that often forgets the emotional needs of older men. Loneliness, anxiety, and even depression can creep in, especially after losing a partner or going through a major life change. Masturbation isn't a cure-all, but it's a safe, natural way to release tension and keep the mind in a healthier, more balanced state. Harold admitted he'd felt more anxious and irritable after stopping. By bringing the conversation out of the shadows, I was able to help him see that these feelings weren't a sign of weakness. They were a sign his body was missing something important. Before we go further, I want to take a moment to invite you. If you find these kinds of honest, respectful conversations helpful, please consider liking this video, subscribing, and tapping the bell so you never miss out. If this message resonates, let me know with a yes or no in the comments. I personally review your answers, and they help me know how to best support you and others in our community. Now, let's talk about prostate health, a topic that comes up almost daily in my practice. The prostate is a small gland with a big job, and it's especially important for men over 60. Regular ejaculation, whether through sex or masturbation, helps keep the prostate healthy. It works a bit like flushing out a system. It helps remove old fluids, supports circulation, and even reduces the risk of certain prostate problems, including infections and, some studies suggest, prostate cancer. When men abruptly stop, sometimes as a result of social stigma or simple discomfort, they may notice increased urinary issues, discomfort, or just a sense that something isn't quite right down there. What made Harold's story so relatable wasn't just his age, but his honesty. He'd bought into the idea that giving up this private pleasure was somehow expected of him. But after I explained the science, and, more importantly, after we talked about how he was feeling, he realized that his well-being mattered. It wasn't about what was normal for someone his age. It was about what made him feel healthy, grounded, and truly himself. Of course, it's always important to listen to your body and talk with your doctor about any changes or concerns. But I want to remind you, there is no age limit on self-care, no expiration date on taking charge of your own happiness and health. I've seen men transform their energy, their mood, even their relationships, just by being open to this one simple change. Harold, for example, noticed that after he brought masturbation back into his routine, without guilt or shame, his sleep improved, his mood brightened, and he felt more like the man he'd always been. And that's not just about sex, it's about living with confidence and dignity every single day. So, as we continue this conversation, remember, you deserve to feel good, you deserve honest information, and you are not alone. There are many men out there just like Harold, and just like you, who are looking for ways to stay strong, healthy, and vibrant well into their golden years. And together, we can make sure that no subject is too taboo when it comes to your health. Harold's story stayed with me long after he left my office that day. He reminded me of so many men who quietly shoulder changes in their lives, often without realizing that the small choices, like giving up masturbation, can ripple out in unexpected ways. After we spoke, I encouraged Harold to see this part of himself not as something to be embarrassed about, but as a natural expression of self-care. And let me tell you, when he came back for his follow-up appointment, the difference was almost immediate. His handshake was firmer, his voice a touch lighter, and he said, "Doc, I never thought something so simple could make me feel this much better." But let's dig deeper into why something as private as masturbation can impact senior men so profoundly. After all, it's about more than just pleasure, it's about health, resilience, and dignity. As a urologist with over 30 years' experience, I can't tell you how often I've seen men downplay their needs, brushing them aside as unimportant or selfish. But our bodies have a way of letting us know when we neglect them. Sometimes it starts with feeling sluggish or out of sorts. Sometimes it's trouble focusing, irritability, or even a deep sense of restlessness. Many men, especially after 60, carry a silent burden. The world rarely acknowledges their emotional and physical needs. But think of it this way, just as you wouldn't skip a daily walk that keeps your joints moving or forego a meal that nourishes you, masturbation remains one of the few self-driven habits that nurture your whole system. The risks of quitting aren't loud or dramatic at first. They sneak in quietly. A touch more stiffness in your joints, or a sleep that just doesn't feel as restorative as it used to be. What's actually going on inside your body? Well, one of the biggest changes has to do with circulation. Sexual activity, even when it's just yourself, stimulates blood flow throughout the pelvis and lower body. This keeps tissues healthy, supports nerve function, and even helps prevent certain kinds of discomfort that can develop with age, like pelvic pain or reduced sensitivity. I've met patients who, after cutting out masturbation, began to notice a dull ache or new discomfort down below. Only when they resumed their old routine did those issues begin to fade. There's another side of this story, too, and that's emotional well-being. Loneliness is a real challenge for many older men, whether it's after the loss of a spouse or changes in family dynamics. Masturbation can't fill every gap, of course, but it does trigger a release of chemicals that support emotional stability. Oxytocin, the same hormone released during hugs or moments of deep connection, helps quiet anxiety, soften mood swings, and foster a greater sense of calm. When men give up this source of comfort, they sometimes find themselves more irritable, more prone to sadness, or simply missing that quiet reassurance that they are, in fact, still whole and alive. Now, let's talk honestly about self-image. One thing I hear often is, "Isn't this something I should have outgrown?" Or, "I feel silly keeping up with this at my age." It's an understandable concern. Society doesn't talk much about the sexuality of seniors, and when it does, it's often with a wink or a joke. But I want to assure you, there is nothing childish or undignified about caring for yourself. In fact, it's a vital act of respect for the life you've lived and the years you have ahead. Keeping up with healthy routines, whether that's walking, reading, or yes, masturbating, signals to your body and mind that you are still engaged in living, still deserving of pleasure and comfort. If you're finding this conversation meaningful, please take a second to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Tap the bell so you're always in the loop. And if what I'm saying rings true, if you've ever wondered about these quiet changes, leave a yes or no in the comments. I read each one, and they genuinely help me guide future advice and support for you. Back to Harold for a moment. His situation made me reflect on the bigger picture. By the time he returned for his checkup, not only was he sleeping better and feeling more energized, but he also shared that his relationship with his grown children had improved. He was less irritable, more patient, and able to show up for his family in a way he hadn't in years. That's the kind of impact these subtle changes can have. It's about more than just the physical side. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself, day in and day out. The research supports what Harold experienced. Studies show that men who maintain sexual activity, however that looks for them, tend to report better overall life satisfaction, greater confidence, and a stronger sense of control over their health. It isn't about chasing youth, but about embracing each stage of life with a sense of curiosity and respect. For many, that means not feeling pressured to stop what's been a natural part of their routine for decades. There are also specific risks that come with quitting masturbation suddenly, especially if your body is used to regular activity. Some men experience increased tension and stress, while others notice more frequent nighttime urination or discomfort in the pelvic area. Over time, these can affect how you move, how well you sleep, and even how you interact with others. It's one of the simplest ways to keep the plumbing running smoothly, if you'll pardon the metaphor. And here's another key point. Maintaining healthy sexual activity, on your own or with a partner, may actually lower your risk of certain chronic conditions. Regular ejaculation helps clear out the prostate, reducing the buildup of fluids that can cause swelling or infections. In some studies, men with frequent ejaculation showed a reduced risk of prostate cancer compared to those who abstained entirely. While everyone's situation is unique, these are benefits worth considering. Some men also ask me about energy levels. It may sound surprising, but a steady routine of sexual self-care can keep you feeling more alert and capable throughout the day. It's not just about testosterone, though that plays a role. Masturbation can help you manage blood pressure, regulate stress hormones, and even promote the release of endorphins. Those feel-good chemicals that make a walk in the park or a good laugh with friends so uplifting. It's a quiet boost, but one you can feel in your bones if you pay attention. Harold told me that, after resuming his routine, he started getting out more, taking his dog for longer walks and even picking up his old hobby of woodworking. These may seem unrelated, but the truth is, when you take care of yourself in one area, you often find the energy and confidence to nurture other parts of your life too. Above all, I want you to understand this. Your body is always talking to you. Sometimes the messages are quiet, just a sense of missing something or feeling off. Other times, they're more direct, like new aches or restless nights. Don't ignore those signals. Listening to them and honoring your needs is not selfish, it's the foundation of a healthy, vibrant life, no matter your age. You deserve honest information and practical advice, especially about things the world prefers to whisper about. That's why I'm here, so you can approach each day with clarity, confidence, and the knowledge that you are not alone. And remember, when you share your thoughts in the comments, it helps shape future videos and lets me know what matters most to you. Let's keep moving forward together, embracing every stage of life with courage, humor, and self-respect. It's often said that the real strength of a man is found not just in what he endures, but in how he cares for himself through each season of life. After seeing patients like Harold, I'm more convinced than ever that the little habits we keep, especially the private ones, have a tremendous impact on our well-being as we age. The decision not to quit masturbation after 60, despite what others might say or what you think is age-appropriate, is really about respecting your body and acknowledging its ongoing needs. Let's continue exploring some of the ways that this natural act plays into your health, your peace of mind, and your sense of self. One of the most commonly overlooked benefits is how masturbation helps maintain pelvic floor strength. Just like any other muscle group, the muscles that support your bladder and sexual function can weaken with inactivity. Regular sexual activity, again, whether alone or with a partner, encourages circulation, strengthens those muscles, and may help prevent problems like incontinence or erectile dysfunction down the road. I can't tell you how many men in their 70s and 80s have thanked me after learning that keeping this routine can actually help them stay continent and confident. I'd also like to touch on immune function. This is something not a lot of men consider, but scientific studies have shown that sexual activity can boost the immune system, making you just a bit more resilient to those bugs that go around. It's the body's way of rewarding healthy pleasure, a natural thank you for tending to your own needs. So, when you're faced with the decision to quit or continue, remember that your immune system appreciates those little moments of self-care more than you might realize. Now, some of you might be wondering about the emotional side. Perhaps you, like Harold, have gone through a loss or a big change and found yourself questioning old habits. It's natural to wonder, is it still right for me? The answer, most often, is that if it brings you comfort, connection, or simply a sense of being alive, then it's not only appropriate, it's essential. Self-touch and self-pleasure are forms of self-acceptance. They help you stay connected to your body and remind you that you're still capable of pleasure, still worthy of good things. It's not just about the act itself, but the reassurance that you haven't been left behind by your own body. As always, if you're finding value in this open, honest discussion, take a moment to like and subscribe, and don't forget to tap the bell icon to stay up to date with these important conversations. If my words speak to your experience, let me know in the comments, just a simple yes or no, and remember, your feedback helps me create advice that truly serves you. I want to take a moment to return to Harold's journey, because it's a powerful reminder of how much can change when we give ourselves permission to care. After resuming his routine, Harold became more attentive to his own needs, which had a ripple effect in his life. He started joining his friends for coffee again, called his grandchildren more often, and even felt motivated to manage his blood sugar more closely, another small habit that led to big results. All of this from one decision, to embrace rather than deny a natural part of himself. Now, I know some men worry that if they continue masturbating, it might somehow diminish their motivation to find intimacy with a partner, should that opportunity arise. The truth is, the opposite is often the case. Keeping your sexual health alive keeps the pathways open for connection, both physical and emotional. Men who maintain a healthy solo routine often find that when the chance for partnership comes along, they feel more confident and ready to connect without anxiety or shame. In my years of practice, I've seen men form new relationships in their 70s and 80s. Relationships built on trust, honesty, and the knowledge that it's never too late for closeness or love. Let's not overlook the mental sharpness that comes with this. When you take steps to care for your body, your mind benefits too. The hormones released through orgasm can help stave off anxiety, lighten your mood, and even support memory and focus. I've seen patients who, after giving up masturbation, noticed they were more forgetful or found it harder to focus on everyday tasks. When they brought this part of their routine back, many felt their mind clear and their sense of purpose return. One question I get asked a lot is, "Doc, is there any downside to continuing?" For most men, the answer is no. provided you feel well and aren't experiencing discomfort or other medical issues. Of course, it's always wise to talk to your doctor if you have any concerns, especially if there's pain, blood in the urine, or changes that worry you. But for the vast majority of men, the act is not only safe but recommended. It's part of what keeps you vibrant and independent. Harold's transformation is a testament to this. The first time he came back after making this change, I noticed not only a physical difference, but a mental and emotional one as well. He laughed more easily, spoke with more assurance, and seemed more at peace with himself. He told me, "It's like a cloud lifted, Doc. I'm not just passing the time, I'm living it." That's the kind of outcome I hope for every man who watches this video. To anyone still on the fence, worried about what others might think or unsure if it's the right thing, I want to say this. You are the expert on your own life. The routines and habits that have brought you comfort, health, and joy are yours to keep. Age does not make your needs less valid. In fact, caring for yourself becomes more important, not less, as you move through these later chapters. If this message feels helpful, let's keep this community strong. Leave a yes or no in the comments and share your own experience if you're comfortable. The more we talk, the more we normalize self-care for men our age, and the less anyone has to struggle alone. As we move forward, always remember that the smallest changes can make the biggest difference. You deserve health, happiness, and the freedom to live each day on your own terms. So take these words as a gentle reminder. Honor yourself, listen to your body, and never be afraid to claim the joy and vitality that are still very much yours. There's a deep wisdom that comes with age, a kind of quiet understanding that life isn't about chasing perfection, but about making the most of the moments and the tools you've got. For many senior men, masturbation has quietly been one of those tools, even if it was never discussed openly. Now, having spent years with men like Harold, I can say with confidence that continuing this private act is more than just about pleasure. It's a choice to maintain agency, comfort, and connection to yourself, right up to today. Harold's journey was, in many ways, about rediscovering parts of himself he'd set aside out of a sense of duty, habit, or simple misunderstanding. After he brought masturbation back into his life, the ripple effects kept growing. He came into my office recently with a kind of lightness I hadn't seen before. His health numbers were better, yes, but more than that, he looked at me and said, "You know, Doc, I didn't realize how much I'd missed just feeling at home in my own skin." And that's really at the heart of this conversation. It's about being at home, with your body, your needs, and your stage of life. Let's circle back to a practical point. The idea that not quitting masturbation can actively protect your health. Think about the routines you've always relied on: walking, gardening, chatting with friends, even reading the morning paper. The common thread is that they keep you moving, engaged, and feeling like yourself. Masturbation is no different. When you remove it without medical reason, you're not just giving up a source of comfort, you might be leaving yourself more vulnerable to subtle, avoidable health challenges. As we discussed, regular self-stimulation helps the prostate flush out fluids, supports urinary health, and keeps the pelvic muscles strong. These are changes you might not notice day by day, but over months and years, they can make all the difference in your confidence and independence. And what about quality of life? I've seen again and again that men who honor their own needs tend to be more upbeat, engaged, and hopeful. Harold's relationships improved, his hobbies blossomed, and he found it easier to cope with the aches and pains of aging. Not because masturbation is a miracle cure, but because when you're in tune with yourself, you're better able to weather life's storms. If you're still with me and these stories are sparking something inside you, please give this video a like, subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you're always part of this ongoing conversation. If you find yourself nodding along, or even disagreeing, I invite you to leave a yes or no in the comments. Every comment helps me understand your needs and shape future advice. You're helping not just yourself, but other men in our community who might be too shy to speak up. I want to emphasize, there's never any shame in seeking out comfort and connection, even when it's just with yourself. Too often, I've met men who felt isolated or invisible, believing that their needs were somehow less important with each passing year. The truth is, the desire for pleasure, relaxation, and peace is part of being human, at any age. Masturbation offers a safe, private, and entirely natural outlet for those needs, especially when circumstances, like the loss of a partner, illness, or distance from loved ones, make other kinds of intimacy harder to come by. Sometimes I'm asked, "Doc, will this ever become less important as I get older?" The honest answer is that, for some men, sexual desire may ebb and flow, and that's perfectly normal. What matters is that you don't deny yourself out of guilt, pressure, or the mistaken belief that you're too old. If the urge is still there, it's a sign your body's systems are working and that you're in touch with yourself. And if it fades, that's normal too. It's just one part of the tapestry of your later years. Let me share one more observation from my decades in this field. Men who keep their sexual health active, even in private, often approach all of life's challenges with more resilience. They handle illness, loss, or setbacks with greater optimism. There's a sense of dignity in knowing you're still the steward of your own well-being. That's what I want for you, to feel empowered, comfortable, and fully present in your own life. When you honor your needs, you open the door to better sleep, steadier moods, and a stronger body. The world might not talk much about these benefits, but I promise you, they're real. I've seen the difference firsthand, not just in Harold, but in hundreds of men over the years. If you're wondering how to get started again, or if you have any worries, maybe a change in sensation, a new ache, or just uncertainty about what's normal, don't be afraid to talk to your doctor. We're here to support you without judgment. And remember, every man's story is a little different. There's no single right way to care for yourself, only the one that fits your needs, your comfort, and your life right now. So as you move forward from this video, I hope you'll carry this simple truth. It's never too late to care for yourself, to respect your body's messages, and to take small, positive actions that support your health and happiness. The risks of quitting masturbation are real, but so are the rewards of staying in touch with yourself, in every sense. Let's keep this conversation going. Like, subscribe, comment, and reach out if you want to hear more about topics that matter to you. We're building a space here where men over 60 can find practical advice, encouragement, and the reminder that you're not alone in the journey. I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, and I'm honored to walk this road with you. Take good care of yourself, and remember, sometimes the smallest act of kindness is the one you give yourself.